we have El Nino in this short rain season 2023.
Serikali yasema kuwa mvua
Tonight, stop living in denial and bring down the high cost of living, Azimio tells Ruto on a day of stinging criticism on President Ruto's State of the Nation address on Thursday.
We have said today that the cost of living is real and is killing the people. It has to be addressed.
This as the clergy calls out the Kenya Kwanza government, saying it should stop overtaxing Kenyans.
We are particularly concerned that the people who are affected most by this situation are those in lower income bracket.
Floods cause major humanitarian crisis in parts of Tana River, Isiolo and Laikipia as residents flee their homes.
Kuna mbuzi nimepoteza, nyumba sina zimeenda na maji.
This as the government now confirms Kenyans' worst fears.
As initially given in the forecast, we have El Nino in this short rain season 2023.
And Mero Governor returns home after a second impeachment scare where she pledges to unite the county. Well, the beginning, my name is Eric Munene. Our sign language interpreter is Rhoda Nyamai. Now, the government has now affirmed that the country is currently experiencing El Nino rains, a statement that contradicts an earlier pronouncement made by the president, who revealed that there will be no El Nino. And as Elizabeth Atieno now reports, on Friday, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua announced some of the measures being put in place to avert impacts of the devastating floods. Have a look.
On the 22nd of October 2023, Kenyans were thrown into a state of confusion after President William Ruto said that there will be no El Nino rains.
Kia tukawa na habari pengine kutakuwa na El Nino ambayo itaharibu kule, itaharibu mali ingine, lakini Mungu ni nani? Mmesikia wale watu wamesema tena ile El Nino haitakuweko.
A few weeks later, more than 19 counties have been affected by floods due to the ongoing heavy rains. And today, the Kenya Meteorological Department has assured Kenyans that this is the El Nino rains, further offering Kenyans an official apology.
I want to point out that as initially given in the forecast, we have El Nino in this short rain season 2023, and we do apologize for the lack of communication or miscommunication, because that was a big mistake, but we are sorry about that.
I think the matter is settled. El Nino it is.
In Tana River County, hundreds of displaced families from Maroro, Ziwani, Sala and Bakuyu are living by the roadside after River Tana broke its banks. The affected locals are counting losses after their houses and properties were submerged.
Zile zingine mbuzi zangu yote wameenda. Na mimi niko na umri wa miaka 47. Huyu mwenyewe ni mtoto ambapo kuwa hana mama, mama amekufa. Ako hapa juu gongo wangu kutoka juzi mimi na hama mpaka leo, na nimesimama hivi mpaka dakika hii. Njaa mwenyewe kutoka juzi jana mpaka leo sijaweka kitu kwa mdomo.
In Isiolo County, at least 3,207 households have been displaced by floods and a further 12,802 households in dire need of humanitarian assistance. The heavy rains that have since resulted to floods has greatly affected counties in the northern part of Kenya, like Mandera, Garissa and Wajir, claiming the lives of 14 people and 30,000 animals.
Efforts are ongoing on documentation of missing persons, livestock lost and the crops destroyed to the enhanced rains. We'll be making this data public once confirmed.
Speaking after a meeting with various stakeholders, including governors and cabinet secretaries, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua said the government, through the National Emergency Response Committee, have instituted measures like supplying food and non-food items to affected families.
The Emergency Response Committee is coordinating a consolidated approach for efficiency and effective action. This is preventing duplication of the response as well as ensuring no place or person is left behind.
Roads and bridges have also been affected by the floods that wreak havoc. For instance, on Thursday, the Garissa-Modogashe Road and the Kotulu Bridge connecting Mandera and Wajir were submerged.
Mobile health facilities are being put in place in areas where infrastructure has been destroyed or marooned.
The government is calling on partners from developing countries to offer financial support to thousands of Kenyans affected by the floods. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47, Nairobi.
Tonight, Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga has warned President William Ruto that he has no option but to address the cost of living, saying the current taxation regime is not sustainable for the economy. The opposition leader, who accused the president of living in what he says is denial, going by his State of the Nation address on Thursday, also unveiled Azimio's plan to lower the cost of living, citing reduction of taxes, budgetary cuts and investments in social economic programs to stimulate economic activity. Apollo Kamau reports.
As reality dawns on Kenyans that the government is not reducing taxes and fuel prices anytime soon, in the wake of President William Ruto's State of the Nation address on Thursday, the opposition has piled pressure on the president, telling the president to stop living in denial and fix the high cost of living crisis that has hit poor families hard.
The government today is living in denial. If you listen to the State of the Nation address yesterday, if you were talking to some people who are living in planet Moon, we have said today that the cost of living is real and is killing the people. It has to be addressed.
And yesterday, listening to President Ruto and talk about reality checks, this is the reality of our times. Incremental unemployment.
Azimio has now offered what it says is a quick remedy to fix the crisis by telling the president to reduce taxes and fuel prices, reducing the national government budget by 500 billion shillings, reintroducing socio-economic programs like Kazi Mtaani, scrapping some overlapping state departments, fighting budgeted corruption, and reschedule payments of debt until the economy improves.
For us in Azimio, reduction in the cost of living is a priority economic imperative. This will be achieved by providing some basic relief to citizens, including reduction of taxes and stimulating production.
Azimio criticizes the government on the current unpredictable tax regime and economic policies, which the opposition says has forced investors to flee the country, with Odinga claiming corporate firms are even evading tax, with the Kenya Revenue Authority having missed its target for the first quarter of the year by 79 billion shillings.
Many Kenyans are both anxious and uncertain of what the future holds. The country is going through a recipe of policy mistakes, failures, and shortcomings served in an authoritarian, paternalistic leadership style. Nobody in government cares about building broad public support around these programs. Everything is forced down everyone's throats.
The opposition has further called for a review of the Hustler Fund after borrowers defaulted a cumulative figure of 2.9 billion shillings, amid calls to increase the lowest borrowing amount of 500 shillings. Apol Kamau, TV47.
And on a story related to that, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops is asking the Kenya Kwanza government to put in place deliberate and realistic measures to reduce the cost of living, saying that a majority of Kenyans cannot keep up. Now, according to the clergy, they also asked the president to fulfill his campaign pledges to avoid a scenario where Kenyans become hopeless. Have a look.
Can we do a prayer?
A day after President William Ruto gave the State of the Nation address at the National Assembly, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops have hit out at the Kenya Kwanza government over the skyrocketing cost of living.
We are particularly concerned that the people who are affected most by this situation are those in lower income bracket, and especially the poor and the miserable. This has created an added suffering to the people already strained by recent COVID-19 pandemic and drought effects.
In a news conference in Nakuru, the bishops want urgent interventions measures to lift millions of Kenyans from the yoke of unbearable cost of basic commodities, which has become out of reach of many poor Kenyans.
We believe the greater commitment and assistance in the agricultural production and better coordinated sale of products, the fair prices for produce like maize, waiver of certain licenses, and zero rating farm inputs can relieve the many Kenyans of this burden.
KCSE Chairman Archbishop Martin Kivuva says a raft of controversial tax hikes by the government are only serving to make the already bad situation worse.
There seems to be a lack of sensitivity in the way the business persons and individuals are being harassed by the KRA officials in view of collecting more taxes. This has also affected people's morale and sense of hope in a better future.
On the state of the country's politics, the clergy commended the ongoing bipartisan talks, saying that this promises a country that is divided along political lines, peace and cohesion.
This has given our country a lease of life and renewed hope for peaceful coexistence. Moreover, we believe that the spirit of dialogue can bring about greater progress in political, social stability and common purpose for the good of our nation.
The bishops called on the government to ensure fairness in employment and funding of higher education as ways of encouraging social cohesion. Chichi Josephine, TV47.
Now, 9 center managers have been sent home for being involved in exam malpractice in the ongoing KCSE exams. In 10,651 centers, unauthorized materials were nabbed in 28 exam centers and 9 phones confiscated. Speaking after monitoring the progress of the ongoing KCSE examination at Kolanya Girls National School in Teso North Sub-County, Education CS Ezekiel Machogu, however, said that the government has embraced a multi-agency approach in an effort to mitigate cases of malpractice. Machogu revealed that the only malpractice reported during the KCPE and KCSE examination was 6 candidates in 2 schools, assuring the country that they have managed to secure the ongoing exams despite the few cases of malpractice.
Since the time we started KCSE, we were able to have a multi-agency approach where, apart from my Ministry of Education, we also had the Ministry of Interior, we had the Ministry of ICT, and due to that particular approach and the kind of mechanism and measures that we were able to put in place, we were able to be very effective in preventing and capping cheating and malpractices. So far, the only cases we have had are 28 where there were unauthorized materials in some centers, and we also had 9 phones, people coming with the phones within the center, and that is not allowed. We had 3 cases of corruption. We have also had 2 cases of impersonation. And out of that, the only number that we have been able to send home, we said they must step aside, are 9 center managers. That is the principals who were manning the particular schools. We have also had 46 candidates who were imbricated out of a number which is 903,260 candidates that we had countrywide. So I'm here to assure the country that all has gone on very, very well. We have not had cases like before because of the new rule that we came up with of increasing the number of containers, the distribution centers, where we said the center managers were coming for the papers in the morning.
Now, as Kenyans continue to grapple with the yoke of the high cost of living, questions have emerged on who really should look out for them. This is because members of parliament who are supposed to be their representatives seem to have abdicated their role of legislating and oversighting the executive. Recent remarks by Mwingi West Member of Parliament Charles Nguna while appearing on a show at Cape Media seems to have confirmed to Kenyans their worst fears, as Sheila Chelangat now reports.
Yesterday's State of the Nation address came at a time where Kenyans have been grappling with the high cost of living. But amid this, the president yesterday hinted that Kenyans need to brace themselves for tough times ahead as far as the cost of living is concerned, besides the rising cost of petroleum prices that continues to irk many Kenyans.
The new direction may not be easy, but it is ethical, responsible, prudent, and most importantly, necessary. We've had to take hard decisions and make painful choices because we owe it to the people of Kenya.
At the heart of this is the Finance Act 2023 that was passed in Parliament, which came as a painful blow to the already struggling Kenyans, many of whom struggle to make ends meet. A move which has raised eyebrows on the quality of representation by members of the August House.
Sisi wabunge tunakula pesa bure. Hakuna kitu tunaweza saidia wa Kenya kwa sasa. Hata tukimeki policy. Hata tukimeki policies zote zitaenda kungeuziwa State House.
These serious claims by Mwingi West MP Charles Nguna, who was speaking to Cape Media on Wednesday, painting a different picture totally from what their role is according to the Constitution, which is to represent the interests of those who elected them.
Ile wakati wa Kenya wali-expect tuwatetee, wengine walienda State House wakapokea 1,100 na wakakuja kunini kufoti. Yes, wanajua hiyo sheria inadhulumu wa Kenya. Jameni, kuna mbunge gani hapo?
Parliament by nature should be guided by the principle of separation of powers, which makes it a beacon of democracy and the rule of law.
Tuliunda bajeti ambayo inafaa kusaidia wa Kenya. Supplementary imekuja imechange kila kitu. Sasa hiyo budget ilikuwa ya nini jameni?
With these grave allegations, the local Mwananchi is left to wonder what the future looks like for them as they remain at the mercy of the powers that be. Sheila Chelangat for TV47.
Quite regrettable, I have to say. Police officers in Kisii have launched an investigation into the chilling murder of a 23-year-old woman who was a student at Kisii National Polytechnic. The victim, identified as Lucy Boke, a first-year student, met a tragic end as she was brutally killed by her boyfriend in the evening at Jogo Estate, located on the outskirts of Kisii town.
Lucy Boke, who was also a mother to a 9-month-old baby, had been pursuing a course in beauty and therapy at Kisii Polytechnic. She had been residing in a house near Green Valley Primary School for the past 3 months.
Unilete kifunguo ndio ukuje tupige story huku nyuma. Sasa ni kama time alikuja kufunga hii mlango, kijana akamsukuma wakaingia na yeye huko ndani. Sasa si tulisikia tu nduru. Kukuja tukapata kijana amefunga mlango, tukashindwa kufungua.
Eyewitnesses recount what could be Lucy's final moments, saying that her boyfriend, who had traveled from Isibania in Migori County, arrived at approximately 6 p.m. and allegedly launched a brutal attack on Boke, resulting in her untimely demise.
Kijana anakaribia mlango ya Lucy, akafungua mlango, akaingia kwa nyumba. So mimi sikuwa nakufikiria kama Lucy alikuwa peke yake. So ni kama yeye aliconfirm kabisa Lucy ako peke yake, ndo akaingia kwa nyumba. Kuingia kwa nyumba akafunga mlango.
Neighbors further revealed that the boyfriend had locked himself inside the house following the gruesome act, leaving the reasons behind the tragic incident shrouded in mystery. In response to the incident, students from KCSE Polytechnic rushed to the scene, gaining access to the house and subjecting the alleged perpetrator to a severe beating, causing him serious injuries.
Bila tumepata ripoti tukakimbia, tukapata amejifungia kwa nyumba, tukampembeleza afungue akakataa. So ndio tumeita reinforcement kutoka KCSE Police Station. Before wafike ndio wanafunzi wamekuja kutoka GIT, ndio wamefamia hiyo nyumba, wamefungua, wakamtoa nje, wakamchapa. Vile wamemweka nje ndio askari wamekuja, ndio wamekuja kusaidia.
Isaac Kimwele, the KCSE Central Sub-County Police Commander, officially confirmed the incident. He explained that the victim had a prior relationship with the accused and the latter had arrived with unidentified individuals, sparking a quarrel that escalated into violence. Valerie Moses, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, Mero Governor Kawira Mwangaza has returned to Mero County days after surviving a second impeachment attempt at the Senate. The governor says she is ready and willing to reunite the county that has seen sharp divisions in its leadership. John Java Kianya with that report.
Mero Governor Kawira Mwangaza has made a triumphant entry to Mero after surviving yet another impeachment by Mero MCAs in the Senate. During a stopovers across Mero, Governor Mwangaza has asked for an apology from those she might have wronged during her tenure in the office. She has preached peace and unity among Mero community, asking every leader to come together to develop the county. At the same time, elsewhere Tigania East MP Mpuru Aburi, whose video clip was mainly used to save Kawira in the Senate, has come out demanding an apology from Governor Mwangaza for editing the clip to suit her claim. Mpuru said he would write a statement to DStv to call for an investigation of what was played at the Senate.
Nina imani na kina mama ya kwamba ile lugha ambayo ilitumika na saizi naenda kwa DStv kuandika statement defamation ambaye imefanyika katika Senate yetu ya Kenya, ya kwamba ile video ambayo ilionyezanwa katika ile mbunge nchi yetu ya Kenya ya Senate ilikuwa edited. Nasema kwamba nataka apology kutoka kwa gavana wetu Mero County eti ya kwamba uliambia Wakenya uongo.
A section of opinion leaders from Mero County have come up to express their disappointment over the ruling given by the Senate regarding the impeachment of Mero Governor Kawira Mwangaza. Speaking in Mero town, the opinion leaders said that the Senate did not solve the problems of Mero by saving Governor Mwangaza.
And now we want to say this to the president, to do away with the Senate because they have demonstrated beyond the reasonable doubt they are incapable. They are more incompetent than Kawira Mwangaza.
Governor Waiguru, nataka kukuuliza. Wewe ukasimama ukasema all the governors watapigania Kawira. Sisi kama wanawake tulikuwa tukijua tulichagua Kawira akiwa kiongozi mwanamke. Hatukuchagua agenda. Senate, kwa nini nyinyi mliangalia agenda?
Mheshimiwa Moses Kuria angewachia Mero isotautiwe na Mero. Vile naibu wa rais Rigathi Gachagua alisema wacha Mero wenyewe wajisort out.
John Java Kiania, TV47.
Now, land rights stakeholders are calling on the government to order the suspension of the ongoing evictions at the Mau Forest, saying it has caused untoward pain and suffering, especially to the indigenous Ogiek communities. The affected now want to get justice so as to own the ancestral land and enhance conservation activities. Further, the community, through the Community Land Action, now wants the Attorney General to advise the government on the registration of the land to own the community ancestral land. The people of the Ogiek in the Mau Forest want to remain in the land. So far, 700 families have been affected.
Jue Okiek, jamii ya Okiek wakitolewa Mao hawana mbele wala nyuma. Huku ni kwetu. Tulisaliwa pale, mababu zetu walisaliwa pale, wamesikwa huku. Hata ingawaje wengine walikuja kusika watu wao, wanasika watu wao juu ya watu wetu. Kwa hivyo tafadhali Rais Ruto ajue Okiek hakuna mahali tunaenda.
Tukiishi shimo ama chini ya miti, watoto wetu watasoma siku gani? Tunafanywa hivyo kwa sababu hatuna kiongozi. Hatuna kiongozi hata siku moja, hakuna hata chief. Nimesharibu kutafutia watoto wale ambao tumeng'ang'ana kusomesha. Hiyo kazi ya uchief. Tunapigwa changa, tunapotelea hapo tu. Kwa hivyo tunaomba serikali hii ya Ruto, tunaomba yeye atuheshimu kwa sababu aheshimu ruling ile ambayo tulienda kesi. Kama ilikuwa hatuna haki, hatungeshinda hiyo kesi.
Hata watoto wetu iko msitu inalala nje na mvua inanyesha wakati hii. Hata watu wanapatikana na pneumonia, na tafadhali serikali asimamishe hiyo kitu.
Ask the office of the Attorney General, being the last line of defense in protecting the rule of law, and to enable the following. 1. Immediately stop the evictions of the Okiek in Sasimwani village, Narok County. 2. Advise those government agencies carrying out the evictions of the existence of a legally binding ruling of the African Court of Human and People's Rights.
Now, a section of members of the Wajir County Assembly has expressed grave concerns about the deteriorating health situation in Tarbaj constituency. The MCAs lamented the poor state of health facilities infrastructure, underscoring the urgent need for improvement.
For instance, Tarbaj constituency, being the second largest constituency in Wajir County, has 27 facilities, of which out of the 27, 14 facilities are closed due to lack of staffs, of which some were operational before, and the county government remains non-committal to improve the health standard in the constituency. For the record, the remaining 13 facilities, the 13 facilities which are operational at the moment are manned by only one nurse. This remains a backlash in the face of the devolution. To prove to all and sundry that on 29th August 2022, in a Boston letter, the Chief Officer Health posted a volunteer nurse in 3 different facilities to be absorbed the next month. It is now 1 year plus, and the volunteer nurses have no hope to be absorbed. This has created serious cases of mistrust in the department executive. It is so unfortunate that the maternal death is of great concern, and the department remains unresponsive to the public outcry.
Time now to get sporty. The Lady Captain week-long activities marking the end of the Muthaiga Golf Club Lucy Njoroge's term of office reaches its climax tomorrow with the main Lady Captain prize. The event, which began on Monday, has attracted a field of 225 club members and guests and follows other events such as the Caddies competition, Ladies Fun event and the Pros, where the winner will go home with more than 100,000 shillings in prize money. Besides the many prizes, there is also 2 Volkswagen Touareg cars for any player firing in 1 holes, 5 or 3.
So this week we have been having the Lady Captains Week. We started off on Monday with the Caddies tournament. We had 75 Caddies playing and 16 staff members. And they managed to bring some very good scores and won themselves some good prizes. On Tuesday, we had the ladies' fun event, the Texas Scrabble, which was a hit. Most of the ladies really enjoyed the competition, and they were joined by men of Muthaiga. Then on Wednesday, we had the pros competition with a prize money of 100,000. The pros of Muthaiga have done very well. They have supported the ladies section very brilliantly throughout the year, and we are very proud of what they are doing, including training the juniors in the club.
Harambee Stars coach Engin Firat has unveiled a 28-man provisional squad for the upcoming 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Gabon and Seychelles. The squad has a blend of local and internationally based players, with Orlando City's Nabi Kibunguchi, Moranga Seals' Eric Balecho and KCB's Hanif Wesonga earning their maiden call. Gaborone United's Duncan Otieno, Elfsborg's Timothy Ouma and Ota Arad's Eric Johanna also make a return to the team. Harambee Stars will play against Seychelles, I beg your pardon. The team will depart to Gabon on November 15th this year. Still on matters football, Kenyan national under-20 ladies football team Rising Starlets today held their first training session at Stade Olembe Stadium in Yaoundé. The Rising Starlets will face Cameroon in the first leg of the third round of the 2024 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifiers, in the match scheduled to be played tomorrow, with a return leg set to be played next Friday at Nyayo National Stadium. Rising Starlets arrived in Cameroon yesterday.
Fill it up. You go 5 minus 2.
Well, at 29 minutes past the hour, time now for a very short break, but don't go away because I'll be back with Disruptive Fridays. Keep it here.
The news that matters the most is a
Katika majengo haya, hapa ndipo sheria zinapotungwa na zinapopakuliwa. Nitakuletea viongozi mbalimbali, mirengo mbalimbali, wote kwa pamoja wakipika na kupakua. Tutawapa nafasi kuweza kuangazia changamoto na mafanikio ya ugatuzi katika ukumbi wa siasa kila siku ya Jumanne kuanzia saa 1 kamili na kuendelea.
Toka eneo hili la Naivasha kwenye kaunti 032, gatuzi la Nakuru.
Toka kaunti ya Elgeyo Marakwet, kaunti 028.
Nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Wajir.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Turukana.
Kwa matukio yote yanayojiri katika kaunti hii 012.
Kutoka kaunti nambari 1, kaunti ya Mombasa.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Lamu.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka Kisii County.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Machakos.
Kutoka kaunti hii ya Trans Nzoia.
Kaunti 038.
Kutoka gatuzi nambari 029, kaunti ya Nandi, chemichemi ya mabingwa.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Kakamega.
Itakuwa nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Bungoma.
Jina langu ni Paula Munio.
Willy Dennis Jiru.
Fabian Kibet.
Mimi ni Hashim Jimal.
Mimi ni Kitio Mika Masai.
John Javakiania.
Jina langu ni Abdulaziz Nameka.
Mimi ni Kombo Alfayo.
Jina langu ni Nicholas Mbai.
Isaac Famba.
Mimi ni Wanje Sosti.
Jina langu ni Arnold Adidi.
Jina langu ni Chris Bet.
Jina langu ni Violet Auma.
Na TV47 inapotamba, mimi Sheila Chelangat nitakuwa nikiripotia maswala yanayokuhusu wewe kila kuchao. Every Thursday 7:30 p.m. unapata nafasi kufahamu viongozi mbalimbali kutoka humu nchini, kuanzia wabunge.
Through Changa, we could get money to pay our rent, to pay our bills.
When I was growing up, water was a problem where I was born and bred. We wake up at 3 to go and look for water.
Magavana
must be ready to be a tough woman and not a woman to be walked over.
Kwa hivyo
but you respect people.
Ndani ya Mfahamu Kiongozi, story na historia, na mi Elizabeth Mutuku.
Kwa mirindimo kemkem ya michezo, mahojiano ya kipekee na mabingwa wetu, makala ya kuvutia pamoja na matukio mubashara viwanjani. Shabiki, tutapiga mbizi katika kila kiwanja, ndani na hata nje ya nchi. Mtazamaji, uko tayari? Ni kazi michezoni ama michezo kazini? Ungana nami Ahmed Bahaj, sajili mpya nimefika katika kipindi cha kipekee Mchaka Mchaka. Zitatoka cheche, tutapiga mstari chini yake. Si bora michezo, ni michezo kwa ubora wake. Cheche.
They say money makes the world go round. So let's slow things down a bit. Put things in perspective. From the markets to the streets to the stocks, we make the complex comprehensible. Join me, Hibak Said, on TV47 Business News for market insights like never before.
What's making the headlines? What does it mean to you? How does it affect you? We answer all these questions every Sunday for half an hour on To The Point Show. Hey, I'm Grace Kuriakanja, and a lot has happened this week. Let's dive into it.
Wanasema wasemao kuwa elimu ni bahari haiishi kwa kuchotwa. Wakati mwingi natangamana na wanafunzi madarasani, sio kama mwalimu bali kama nahodha kwenye kipindi cha tasnia ya elimu. Na iwapo utanikosa madarasani, basi utanipata nyanjani nikisaka habari zenye usawa, ufasaha na ukweli. Na iwapo utanikosa nyanjani, bila shaka utanipata studioni hapa nikisoma habari na kuendesha mijadala mikomavu. Mimi ni Andrin Kilemi, mpenzi wa lugha ya Kiswahili na elimu kwa jumla.
Well, if it is happening, then we are definitely talking about it on TV47's Disruptive Friday. Don't miss a moment on the most technological and disruptive moment on TV.
From groundbreaking AI breakthroughs, we have a dynamic duo joining us, bringing together two realms that might seem worlds apart: civil engineering and blockchain technology. Our guests are thought leaders in their respective fields with a wealth of knowledge in their respective fields. Now, they have a wealth of experience shaping the landscapes of construction and the decentralized future of the internet. Today, we're diving into the future of work, exploring how these two seemingly different fields intersect and collaborate to shape the way we build, innovate, and collaborate in the 21st century. And I'd like to introduce my guests. On my left, I have Yvonne Kagondo, who's a Web3 and blockchain expert. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And on my right, I have Engineer Shama Kiteme, who is a civil engineer. Thank you so much. I'd like to, thank you. I'd like to start with you, Yvonne, from where you sit as a blockchain and Web3 expert. Could you kindly tell us how that technology affects us currently, practically?
In our daily lives?
Yes.
So blockchain technology first came into the industry in 2008 when we had the first disruptor, which was Bitcoin. And Bitcoin asked the question of why is it that central banks have so much authority, yet they don't really favor individuals themselves, the people who really matter to them. So the question that we asked as the blockchain community is, why is it that so much power comes from central authorities? And blockchain beyond Bitcoin was a phenomenal disruptor in general lives. For example, what we do at the Internet Computer Protocol is that we ask the question, is the Internet centralized? When we think of the Internet, we think of what we see on our phone is Android, Google, Facebook. Yes. And we ask the question, as ICP, we ask the question is, are we giving so much power to these big tech firms? So far, the Internet has done so much for us, and all of us we're surviving fully. We spend so much time on the Internet, but how much power are we giving to the Internet? And that's the question we ask as ICP, because we want to address that question and decentralize the Internet. Yeah. Okay.
Engineer Kiteme, and I know we've had this discussion before, but kindly tell us how digital tools have really evolved over time and affected your practice as a civil engineer.
Absolutely. So the digital space has really evolved, matter of fact, to affect civil engineering. We deal with infrastructure, for instance. So we'll deal with planning, conceptualization, design, implementation, which is actually construction, and maintenance, which is actually looking at an asset and ensuring it is meeting its purpose in terms of keeping it running. Now, the digital space has really crept in and come in various ways. Number one, you'll appreciate now we are able to have a digital twin of an asset. We are able to have the asset on the digital platform even before it is put on the ground. We're able to manipulate it, see things and how it is going to interact with other phenomena or on the digital space.
Yes.
Now, you'll be surprised that we are currently able to come up with a digital twin of an asset just through scanning it and converting it into the replica on the digital space. And so that then becomes the way in which we are going to manipulate, we are going to interfere with it in terms of redesign, we want to remake or stuff like that. And that has advantages. Number one, I'm able to do much of what I want to do on the asset before I put it on the ground, and I can manipulate it. I can do stuff around it and see the output and outcome before I put it on the ground, where any single change is very expensive. So it has its own advantages, and we have digital terrain models. We have various modes, even data storage of these assets. We are going to have complete cities on the digital space. And when you talk about planning and even development of the physical assets, we are going to have to do them on the digital space before we put them on the ground. That is a phenomenal change, because a few years ago, that wasn't possible. Yeah.
So we're talking about technological advances and an intersection of technology and sensitive areas like civil engineering. From where you sit, don't you feel threatened by issues like cybersecurity, for instance?
A very good question. Now, innovation has its other side of making people feel scared. This change, what does it bring? So that we are leaving the traditional and what we know. Where are we going now? I do not really believe that the internet is the biggest innovation. Probably in history, discovery of fire could have been the biggest innovation. And you can see what fire has, brought to us. Virtually everything. You're flying, engines, combustion, and all that. So, in a similar manner, innovation, the digital world and its interface with engineering. Yes, there are those who think we will be scared and we do not know where we are going. But the good thing and the beauty is that there are absolutely very many potential areas of benefit to the industry. And I look at those. Because really, if you can now have the entire globe, just imagine the entire globe on the tablet. That's how revolutionary this is. When you're flying in the plane, you're able to see where you are. You're flying over Ethiopia, and you're headed to Frankfurt or whatever. That's the power of the digital world. And I think we should be more excited, make sure that we are digitally updated so that we are not left behind as the revolution happens. I think significant development in the industry, they are going to be more beneficial than harmful to us.
Well, Yvonne, a lot of people think of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies when they hear blockchain, but I believe it has other practical ways of applying in our real world. How can the technology enhance or even revolutionize some of the processes that we go through every other day, let's say in civil engineering, for instance, or even health, or even transport?
Okay, so when we talk of, I was thinking of civil engineering when the engineer was talking. But in blockchain, we talk a lot about the metaverse. When we talk of non-fungible tokens, and we do a lot of planning around the metaverse. Actually, 2 weeks ago, we had the Africa Metaverse Summit here in Nairobi, Kenya. And we were discussing how potentially can this benefit us. I don't know if anyone has watched the movie Ready Player One, but normally how we put it is that before, people thought that with the revolution of time, they would be flying cars and would get to locations faster, or teleportation or something. But right now, so many things are just done in the house, just by having your computer, by having your phone. So a lot of our designers are getting into software rather than the physical. You can build a whole school inside the metaverse. You can do so much inside the metaverse. That's why we have big companies like Facebook venturing into switching their whole brand into Meta. You can design a whole building on the meta. That's virtual reality. That's virtual reality, yeah. But it all runs on the blockchain because we have aspects like non-fungible tokens, and that's how we run it on the blockchain. I'd delve deeper, but I feel like I'll confuse the audience.
No, just go on.
Yeah.
It's called Disruptive Fridays.
Oh, Disruptive Fridays, okay. Okay, so basically, the idea is when you have your virtual reality, your digital items, the physical but digital items, you can literally go anywhere and do anything. You can be in the Masai Mara, but you're in Kenya. You can be in that whole building. You can build. We have designers who are literally building full buildings all on the metaverse. We have ideas of, can students, instead of African students, can they travel from, instead of flying out into other countries, struggling with visa issues, can they have all that in their home here in Africa? And we've been actually initiating, we have a metaverse society here in Kenya, and they've been doing such activations in rural areas in Kenya. And it's actually been phenomenal and crazy to see, to be honest. It's like a reality of a movie. Yeah.
Well, engineer, how important is, because now we have to, like we've said, we're having an intersection of technology and serious areas like the area that you're in. How important is data integrity in your field, and how do you deal with the security concerns from where you sit?
Well, a very big area, to be honest. Data. We rely heavily on data for design, for instance, so that the integrity of data is very critical. You want a lot of survey data, for example, to be able to do the geometric profile for a road. You need a lot of data to be able to remotely monitor an infrastructure, for example, a dam and all that. You actually need to have data that you keep. And for example, when you're bidding or tendering, you need that data not to be able to be accessed by the bidders or people who are tendering. And so privacy of data becomes very important, because really if people out there can access the data, then that means they're able to see everything, they're able to just copy paste from you, and it loses meaning. So data privacy then becomes very important. Now, of course, we are relying on the techies to help us to make sure that we can encrypt data, even the transmission, it cannot be, harnessed and, taken over and all that, and even the storage and all that. So it is very critical, it is very important. Look at it this way, that though we are celebrating the decentralization and removing the central authority, when I'm dealing with the other party, it is fun, fantastic, through collaboration and all that, and we have removed the intermediary. But if we get into a quarrel, for example, I mean, it's very difficult to mediate that situation because there's no third party and all that. So integrity, data integrity becomes very important. So that doesn't bring misunderstanding and all that. Imagine if I am able to craft a contract, and someone from the blues can alter the conditions of the contract through the digital, interfering with the contract, digitally. It is scary. And so I think we've got to invest a lot in data security, so that really we are not exposed, and so that what we're dealing with really is, we know we are dealing with the real thing. Otherwise, the cost is humongous when you have data breach and there's no data privacy.
All right. So Yvonne, you've talked about non-fungible tokens. It brings me to tokenization. How do you see tokenization affecting, the real world, for instance, civil engineering, moving forward? For example, in large-scale construction projects.
Well, in Kenya specifically, I've heard of a number of big people talking about tokenized cities. These digital cities, for example, Garden City, or we had a guy in Western Kenya who had built this huge hospital, and he wanted to build a whole sort of metropolis around it. He wanted to create a tokenized system where in this particular city they would be using one single token for everything, for the hospital, for the schools there, for the malls there. So it's been a topic that we've been exploring in Kenya for actually a while now. And when we talk of tokenization, just to bring it back to the basics, my simplest example of tokenization is with Bonga points. Bonga points are not on the blockchain, but how they operate, it's quite interesting. Bonga points are a simple tool. They are loyalty rewards that you get when you use Safaricom products. But with these Bonga points, it's creating a sort of economy that people might not realize. With these Bonga points, you can buy phones, you can pay for flights, you can buy airtime, you can donate. I remember during Corona time, we were being told to donate with Bonga points. And some people classify Bonga points as a liability to Safaricom, but some of us in blockchain question it. We're like, is it a liability, or is Safaricom trying to create its own economy? So some people may not realize, but we're actually living in a sort of, when you work in the Safaricom ecosystem, it's a tokenized ecosystem when you're using the Bonga points, because this items which you can actually trade 0.3 Bonga points, it's 1 shilling, no, there's math there that I'm forgetting. I think 3 Bonga points is equals to 1 shilling. In the long run, when you look at it, how Safaricom has done its tokenization of their loyalty points and how other industries are working towards, I've seen Standard Chartered trying to implement the same, some supermarkets trying to implement the same, but the best example I believe in Kenya has been the Bonga points. You can find a whole digital economy is being built with this system, and we don't even realize it.
So engineer, but that's quite interesting. I had not even seen I had not looked at it that way.
Yeah.
Like a localized and a very small economy kind of thing.
In Safaricom itself.
Yeah, within Safaricom itself. But from your experience, how do global trends in engineering and construction impact the way projects are approached locally, and how can innovations like blockchain enhance or make your work even more efficient?
Yeah, there are, like I said, there are significant change in terms of moving into digital space. And this is happening globally. We do have movement into now, I alluded to building information modeling, whereby the different players in the infrastructure sector can collaborate. You can work on a project with a player in the US, another one in Hong Kong, and another one in South Africa, and another one in Kenya. And this is made possible because of that collaborative space created by building information modeling, and the fact that you can do all this remotely and just like collaborate on the digital space. Now, several things. The question of the physical office becoming irrelevant. And the good thing is that this country is always ahead in terms of these things. M-Pesa is mentioned all over the globe, everywhere I go.
Yes.
You talk about the innovation of M-Pesa and all that. And so I can assure you we are not left behind. Our engineers are getting adept in coding and being able to move into this space.
Okay.
We are fast into the space of building information modeling. We are fast in the space of being able to have all our infrastructure and incorporating Internet of Things and stuff like that, building services being monitored and managed through remotely. And so this is really a very interesting space. And as it happens globally, even here in Kenya, we have made our own efforts so that our engineers are competent and they're moving into this space. So the global movement into this space is impacting contracts, is impacting the way we do infrastructure. There are platforms like Dynamo that are even simplifying. And when we knew coding to be, you have to learn, you have to invest heavily on it. Now you have, you are able to run on Dynamo, for example, and generate crazy ideas for design, for example. And that is available. There are tools that are available. They've been made available by software firms, for example. And this really is revolutionizing the engineering industry. And I can guarantee you our engineers are up to the task. And those who are in the university, we are even encouraged them more to invest in coding because the world is moving that way. And so, significant change, big change, but in which we are able to make sure that engineers are well versed in this space. Absolutely.
Well said, engineer. The world is moving towards coding, as you say. Even technology is evolving and is evolving fast. From where you see it, how is technology like blockchain evolving in different regions, and what opportunities or challenges can be presented, for instance, in our Kenyan context or even the African context?
Well, I just also to echo what the engineer said. For me, I'm not a software developer by profession. I'm a financial economist. Okay. And I did financial economics, and right after my undergrad, I went straight into a coding bootcamp because I knew the future of finance had to come from, the background, and then you implement software, and that's how you get the future. So that's when I went into the decentralized world, because I started learning about central banks in uni. As a financial economist, I learned how central banks work, the history of economics, history of finance, and I realized that decentralization was definitely the future. And I believe that's also the case with other industries such as engineering, such as even journalism. You never know. We all have to learn a bit of software. Yep. And what I can say in Kenya specifically, how it's being implemented here, from where I sit, we try at ICP to educate developers, Web 2 developers. That's general software developers who know how to code front-end, back-end, cybersecurity, Internet of Things, and the rest. And we try to get them onto the Web 3 space. And the reason we are doing this is because we believe that Africa, Kenya, East Africa, because our area is focused is East Africa, has the potential to produce the skills for the next generation. In the past decade, we've been having India leading the market in terms of the workforce, and we've seen India producing a lot of talent, creating a lot of jobs for themselves. We've seen the billionaires of this world are coming from India. So we want to be the next India. We want to be the next frontier. We want Africans to be creating jobs, to be creating products, selling them across the border. So that's why at ICP Kushites, we focus on the best talent in the world. People can be hiring them through the internet to build blockchain products, to build artificial intelligence products, AI, that's what I meant, metaverse and the likes. So the opportunity that I believe mostly for Africans is because, especially with East Africans, Kenyans, here specifically, is that we have a highly educated youth. There was a time I remember when I was in uni, we were told that in Africa we have the highest number of educated black people. We have and yet most of us are unemployed. We have high access to the internet. So I believe we have the opportunity to provide skills to all over the world. And that's what we are trying to achieve with ICP. Yeah.
So very briefly, humans are not going to be replaced by machines?
I put that, for example, Postman versus Facebook, right? When Facebook came into the picture, or social media came into the picture, Postman basically lost his job. Yeah. The post office is useless because you can send messages to all over the world through the internet, through text messages. But how many jobs have been created by the internet here in Kenya? How many influencers do we have? How many online writers do we have? How many content creators? How many of these things came through the internet? So I don't believe that they're going to replace us, but all we have to do is think ahead. We have to know what jobs are coming. There are jobs that have not yet been invented at this moment. That's why it's really important for us to be upskilling every day, do software, teach Web 3, Web 2, and the likes. Okay. Yeah, that's my point of view.
Well, thank you. In the interest of time, we have to bring this to an end. But before we go, I'd like to give you an opportunity to give us very briefly your last thoughts.
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, a great conversation. And this is really impacting engineering. And that is why the Institution of Engineers of Kenya, in collaboration with the Engineers Board of Kenya, has organized a 30th IK International Convention in Pride in Paradise, Mombasa, next week from 14th to 17th, where we're going to be discussing this and many more ideas. So what you're looking forward there is to have conversation around engineering a new world. And this means we'll have a conversation about AI, machine learning, the entire space of digital transformation, talking about infrastructure financing, talking about climate change and sustainability. And this is happening next week, and we're inviting all engineers, we're inviting all players in the infrastructure industry that you can't afford to miss, to be in Pride in Paradise, 14th to 17th, November 2023.
All right. Yvonne, a minute or less.
Okay, so for us, I'd like to invite everyone to follow us on X Twitter at ICP Kushites with a K, ICP Kushites. We have weekly classes for developers. We have hackathons ongoing right now, and we do trainings for Web 2 developers to become Web 3 developers. Yeah, I look forward to the conference and everything else.
Thank you very much, Yvonne Kagondu, a Web3 and blockchain expert. Thank you so much for gracing the show. Asante sana, Engineer Shama Kiteme. Thank you so much for coming. And thanks to you too, viewer, for keeping us company until this tail end of the broadcast. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Eric Munene, but don't go away because up next is Wabebe.